Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Our guest today is Craig Helpen. We're going to talk to him in just a second. We are also out on Clubhouse. We'll begin taking calls there at a certain point. Craig's group is called Helpen.com. It's an organization designed to help kids in a very interesting sort of way, hit kids and families. And I thought it was an interesting idea to dig into a little bit. And did I not say Craig Sanders? What did I say?
Craig
My
Helpen.
brain is not working entirely. Oh, that's hysterical. My brain, my mouth will sometimes jump ahead of my brain. And this today is a perfect example of that kind of thing happening. Yeah, Greg Sanders, let's bring Craig on in. He can explain exactly. Let's not rely on my brain any more than we absolutely have to. Greg, there you are.
Dr. Drew, thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you. So tell us where this idea came from and what the goals are.
Sure. So Helpen actually came from my childhood. My dad was a pilot in Vietnam and pre-COVID an usher at his church. And so he gets embarrassed at times when I say this, but ever since I was a little kid, there really was never a dollar bill that was safe anytime we'd come across someone experiencing homelessness, especially a veteran. Now, he never said anything about it, right? But as a child, you see everything. And so I think those observations added up over time. And many years later, I actually found myself in finance, but also on the side fundraising for several nonprofits. And I really developed a pretty big passion for it. Well, one day I came across an article that said that the first 8 or 9 years of all of our lives are really the most formative. And it just got me thinking, looking back on my own childhood and realizing how impactful that was. But also, we have all of this technology. Kind of why aren't we using it to help shape today's youth into a generation of helpers? So I decided to leave finance and build Helpen.
So the goal is to get young people used to the process of service. Is that correct? Am I getting you right?
So Helpen is a charitable platform that gives kids the chance to help others right at the dinner table. And so the way it works is each week we can deliver nonprofit postcards to your home, just kind of like this. And you pass them around the dinner table and you allow kids to decide who they'd like to support with $1. You then have the option to talk to Alexa, actually, to hear how you made a difference. And so a child could plant a tree, they could feed a rescued horse, or contribute to colorful bed sheets for kids undergoing cancer treatment in the hospital. This is really about giving them an opportunity to make their own decision and then understand right away that, hey, because you chose this, here's this really cool thing that's taking place.
Very interesting. So the idea is giving, I mean, when people are trying to recover from all kinds of serious problems, service always becomes a piece of the process. And to your point, I don't think service is ever really, philanthropy is sort of emphasized, but that's something kind of done by grownups, right? It's something, and it seems sort of away, while making it something sort of routinely part of the daily life of the family. That makes perfect sense to me.
Absolutely. And experience is the greatest teacher, right? We're using these micro donations as more of a means to an end. This is giving kids the ability to think of others, right? Empathy, generosity, and kind of Helpen is more of a tool. It's a nudge to those important conversations for families. And so if we give these kids the opportunity to make their own decisions, where does that lead in conversation right at that dinner table? And so our job is to kind of create an experience that's meaningful for the family, but also drive a little bit of connection for family members.
You'd mentioned that much of our development is set by age 8. It's really mostly by age 5. The literature is that if you intervene by age 8, you can sort of get things that are off the track back on the track. But pretty much the cement is drying about age 5. And the fact that people don't know that, understand that, and and emphasize the need. And the primary need of the child up to that point, up to age 5, though, is face and body time and space with a primary caretaker. I mean, they just need thousands of hours of that. It turns out that's actually where empathy develops. Empathy is not something that can be taught. It's a full body experience that comes online after kids learn how to appreciate what emotions are, how to identify them in their parents and then in themselves. And that's sort of where empathy comes into the a part of the brain called the dorsolateral ventral medial prefrontal cortex. And so this is something a little different. This is more like character you're talking about developing, I'd say, right?
I think it does fall a little bit under character development, right? And we bring on parenting experts that contribute in a variety of ways to the help and experience, but they all touch on, generosity, the resilience, the grit, the integrity aspects of it, all these kind of things that kind of indirectly or directly contribute to helping shape today's youth into those generous and eventually empathetic leaders of some extent. And so, we're just, again, just one little cog in the puzzle of shaping these kids. But I think we've figured a way to add an additional tool to the tool belt there, and hopefully build types of traditions of generosity in the home.
Yeah, it's cool. I want to sort of examine a couple of words you tossed out. Before the mics heated up, you mentioned the word grit and resilience, and I want to get into that in a second. But you just said teaching our leaders, or something. I found you just saying something about that. Why does this have to be about leading? Why can't this just be about being a citizen or being a human being?
I think part of being a good leader is understanding other people's perspectives. And I think, even
But
though it may
we
be
don't have good well, but in this country, we don't have good citizens. We don't have good human beings. How about we start with the character of each and every one of us, not just people that lead?
absolutely, I unfortunately don't have um, a whole lot of answers for us adults, but I do think there's a chance to be a little bit preemptive in shaping that next generation, and giving them some of these
Yeah,
experiences.
for sure. I'm looking at the website right now. It's really very interesting. How long has this been around?
We did a soft launch at the beginning of last year, so it was built during the pandemic. We did a soft launch at the beginning of
Uh,
last year, and then kind of improved the product and really kind of threw it out there this past October. So this past giving season was really our first kind of time in the wild, out front, getting a lot of feedback and really trying to deliver some pretty cool organizations to these families at the same time.
I noticed there is a mention of gratitude here, which is another really important aspect of character. Gratitude, generosity, respect are something that you mention here. How is does respect figure into this equation?
I think it comes around a little bit, it mixes in a little bit with that gratitude. At the foundational level, I think you have this character development, you have the generosity, the gratitude, and the respect. And it's an understanding of where other people or how other people are living. One, we've been able to receive some pretty good feedback from parents as far as what they've kind of how they've experienced helping. And one parent in particular had written to us and said that her child at times focuses a little bit more on himself, but through these conversations, she's
Mm,
actually noticed him start conversations about gratitude. And that was a great behavior
mm.
change that she saw in her son, and it was something that they were incredibly grateful for. So as we get that
Even though
feedback, I
we
think we'll be able to.
keep going, I got you.
I, I think as we get some more of that feedback, we'll be able to kind of continually iterate and really improve the experience to make sure that we do get some of those outcomes that you just kind of heard.
Yeah, I'm thinking that even though you and I were talking about the how a lot of the character construct. I mean, character has sort of two levels to it, right? I mean, character is something we talk about as being sort of a feature of the personality construct. And I think we do so little talking about character, meaning more a function of what would the other words be for character that we just obviate, we just don't talk about. sort of the dignity of the individual and the ability to, again, being a good citizen is what comes to mind for me. We never talk about those things anymore. It seems to me that kind of character, which is very healthy and very satisfying for people, is something you can begin to work on during adolescence. It's not just that 8 and under age group. It's easier 8 and under, but I think this could be something important for all the way into adulthood.
Absolutely. And we hope that, not only do we kind of motivate the next generation, but this serves almost as a little bit of a reminder or an ability to kind of wake up some of those thoughts for adults as well. And so while this is definitely geared towards the next generation, we think that parents especially are a beneficiary of this, and hopefully leads to some of those conversations that maybe they carry with them outside the home.
Do you have any thoughts about why we've done? I know David Brooks has been talking about this forever, but it seems like the discussion about character or citizenship is something that's anathema to today's world. Do you have any theory about that?
I think we've moved away from, I don't think we're as unified as we once were before. And obviously, actually, that's pretty apparent with the amount of tribalism that we do have in this country, polarization. But, and again, I don't necessarily have the answer for us. I do think that you can maybe, and I'm not saying we're a lost cause, but I think you can
Mm.
at least focus on the next generation, and maybe it's something that, that's what we come together around, is the kids, right? And I think that's something that I'm willing to put some work into.
I would hope we come around to the kids, and yet we have seemingly consciously, although maybe without understanding what they were doing, our leaders have sacrificed kids in the name of helping save maybe the very elderly during the COVID pandemic. And I don't know. Maybe we will. Maybe that will be a big pushback going forward. Maybe people will have had enough of that and say, well, this we should be sacrificing ourselves for the kids, not sacrificing the kids for a 3 generations ahead of them. I mean, that's I've never seen a population do that. It's about the kids, and we just paid no attention to the impact we were having on the children with what we've just been through. I was looking at the website again. It seems like you're getting a lot of good feedback from families themselves, and when they take is there a challenge associated with this, or is it just you just sign up and the materials show up?
There is, you sign up, and we start kicking out postcards every single week, and it's working well so far for a variety of reasons. One, the postcards are a little counterintuitive, but kids love receiving things in the mail. It also only has three charities on each one, just because obviously after three it becomes a little bit more difficult to make decisions, and that's for adults. So we only give kids around three options each week. But really, I think we have an opportunity here to make helping others pretty fun. But that's a little bit further down the road. I think what we're really trying to stress here is, one, giving kids agency, and then really providing those short feedback loops so they can understand that, hey, because I did this, here's this really good thing that's taking place.
Well, excellent. You also mentioned grit and resilience. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think when you, at least from a product perspective, when you're trying to create something for families, you want to add a little bit of friction to not make it way too easy for kids. And I think what we're succeeding in is creating an environment where it does provide the parents an opportunity to step in and explain a little bit further. And so it's not necessarily super easy for kids to grasp right away. But with regards to grit and resilience, I think there are definitely things that we need to instill at an earlier age, and a lot of the
Yeah.
parenting experts that we have on our platform provide decent examples on how to go about that as parents, and provide some decent insight for us to pass along to others.
And are there videos, or what are the parenting experts? Where do they show up here? I didn't see that on the site. I'm looking right now.
We call them Helpen snacks. So we deliver their 1 minute audio clips from these parenting experts, contributors to publications, and shows across the country. But they offer 1 minute audio clips, and they can cover anything from the generosity, the empathy, the gratitude, resilience, and grit. Anything that they think contribute to becoming those helpers of tomorrow. And so everyone has a different perspective, and I think that's the beauty of it, right? There is no one right answer for any of this, and our job is to try to continually find different perspectives and see what resonates with people.
Friend of mine, Jessica Leahy, wrote a book called The Gift of Failure. And when you talk about grit and resilience, I just think about that there needs to be what's called scaffolded failure. You have to you have to have a sort of a supportive scaffolding around kids. So when they fail, they can be caught. They don't, destroy themselves with failure. But failure is something we have sort of gotten in the way of for kids for quite a little while now. And we need to let them fail a lot more. We need to let them hurt themselves a little bit. We need to let them fight a little bit. We know that's where that's where they work out these processes. It's not an intellectual process. You don't teach, resilience and grit. You experience it.
Absolutely. I think you're talking to a former hockey player here, so that's a lot of my childhood right there of what you just described. But you do learn lessons, especially in sport, that I think contribute to development of grit and resilience, and they definitely show up later in life when you don't get things going your way. And so I'm
Yeah.
certainly fortunate for those early experiences.
Well, listen, I appreciate you stopping by here and sharing your project with us. I think it's a great idea. I love the direction you're going. I hope you expand it into other topics and other sort of resources for parents. But the idea of service and gratitude and citizenship and all these things about being a certain kind of person, and guess what? That just works better for the individual, and it works better for the community when we behave like that, just the way it is. I think it's something that shouldn't be taboo any longer, and we ought to really emphasize it. So I appreciate you being out there doing that.
Thank you very much. Those words are very comforting for us. Obviously, we've got a lot to improve on, but we certainly appreciate all the feedback and insights. And thank you for having us on your show.
You bet. Craig Sanders, Helpen, HELPEN.com. Check it out. Thank you for being here. We are going to go on out to Clubhouse and start taking a few calls here and see what you guys are on your mind. There's a lot of calls here after all. I'm going to check in with Joe, who's been dealing with COVID. Joe?
Hello there. How are
Hey,
you doing?
You sound pretty good for a sick person.
I know. I don't sound too bad, except
No.
I think I'm starting to get a little delusional because I'm on YouTube looking up legendary Dr. Drew YouTube clips.
That's not good. That's a bad sign.
No. And
You're beginning not delusional, it's encephalopathic. That's called encephalopathy.
there you go. There you go. By the way, I did not know one little known thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I find these videos. I could find them anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know you were on the original Big Brother.
Oh, yeah. I was on the very first episode. And I remember.
Wait a minute, that was the first episode?
The first everything. Yeah, it was the very first everything. And they had me. And did you see the woman from AOL, the AOL lady?
Yeah, wasn't that what's her name? Chan, right? Didn't she host?
No,
for
Julie
years?
Chen. Julie Chen was the host. And when they asked me to do it, they really didn't know what they were going to do. They had no idea what this was going to be and this live show and how we were going to do it. They had no idea what they wanted to do with me. And it just became this weird little commentary I would do with the AOL woman. She'd do her AOL commentary, and I'd do my sort of commentary. It was, as I remember, it was on a Thursday, and they'd call me like Thursday morning and go, "Here's what you're going to talk about. Why doesn't the chicken man like dogs?" I'm like, okay, all right, let's see what I can make of this. It seemed very nonsensical to me. So it didn't last. It didn't last. There was not a lot of meat in the sauce.
And
Yeah.
the episode, that first episode, and they specifically talked about a marriage that kind of went awry. It seemed,
I
and
remember that.
yeah, it was a marriage of a guy. They show the guy
Yeah.
telling his story, and then the woman is one of the contestants on Big Brother. Yeah,
can't remember.
it was a little too much drama. But
I got to tell you though, one of the interesting things about that cast is some of them left. This was the early days of reality television. What was the year in that? Like
2000.
Yeah. Okay. You sure it was 2000? Might have been before that. All right. But they like left their lives and came to Los Angeles. They thought they were going to be stars, which I guess has now since happened to some reality participants, but
Right.
they really were sort of intoxicated by the whole thing. And I had heard that a couple of their lives were sort of destroyed. Like they left their family and they came out
Right.
here and I have, since I heard that, I always thought I wanted to do a show called After Reality, really track down people and see how it affected their lives.
That would be a very good show.
It would be
because
very interesting.
It would be very, very interesting. Now, let's get back to the COVID thing.
Yeah.
So I've had anxiety for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you right now, one, there is a huge difference between Delta and Omicron. It's almost like night and day.
Mm-hmm. But let's talk about that for a second. And yet we still have the press out there beating the bushes for panic. We don't know. Right. And I just read an article where they said in some ways this Omicron is different than the other ones. And they interviewed multiple physicians who are saying, yeah, people come in with a sore throat and night sweats, and that's pretty much it. And it's like the headline should be, this is spectacularly different if you've been vaccinated, especially if you've been vaccinated. I'm fascinated by the fact that you have been not vaccinated, and yet you're having a pretty easy time of it yourself.
Well, not just that, but I never had a sore throat. The only thing I have is the coughing, and now I'm starting to get the head cold congestion.
I hear it, yeah.
Which is okay, because
it lingers on too. It's quite a nuisance. I will tell you, it's quite a nuisance. It lingers on for quite a while, but that's nothing. It's a cold.
Right, exactly. Now I'm going to go further. I think, and let's take out all the controversy of medication. Let's take out all the controversy of COVID and everything. If there's any one thing that I did that made things very, turn out to be this result, it's the fact that I dropped down to 210 pounds.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, this is the lowest I now weigh.
Congratulations.
And so the fact that I weighed that, and please, I'm purposely saying this to people that have obesity issues, overweight problems, please get healthy.
Yeah.
Because it's not just COVID. I will tell you that whenever I had an upper respiratory infection in the past, it was rough.
Right.
And that is just obesity in general.
Right. When you have obesity, you have all this adipose tissue, which is inflammatory. You literally have inflammation going on in your body, and the inflammation is primarily going on in the inner surface of your arteries. So there's that. And you have all that weight upon your chest, so the transthoracic pressure prevents you from fully expanding on a regular basis and clearing the airways. So there's a lot going on there, and also you can have actually hypertension in the pulmonary arteries because of those pressures. But here, I was thinking about you this afternoon, and
thank you.
But I was wondering. I wonder if Joe's going to be pissed that because you were rendered
isolated.
You were paralyzed by the news, essentially. Had they been more encouraging and more sort of even-handed, you might have navigated this thing a little differently. Are you pissed?
Not at all.
Okay. All right.
And I'll tell you why.
Why?
I'm starting to work on my faith.
Okay. I noticed that.
And I just accept it.
Okay.
And from here, you move forward.
Yeah, Tom Cigars is saying Joe has been in jail for 2 years, and I'd be pissed.
That's okay.
That's okay
because Drew, I don't think I would have lost the 100 pounds that I lost.
All right, fair enough.
If it wasn't for that.
Fair enough.
I mean, look, I'm now walking in, and I'm assuming everything's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to be walking in post COVID.
Yeah.
The healthiest I've ever been in my entire life.
Well, all right, good. So listen, we're doing a podcast. We were just doing an interview about gratitude. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for being grateful and not resentful. That's a much healthier place for you to be.
I also want to say this. I also have to be very thankful to you. I have to be thankful to Susan. I have to be very thankful for, sorry, I'm getting emotional. I have to be thankful to all the locals people that have,
supported you.
Kristen Karpinski
Yeah.
and Tom and Leopold, all of those, and Anthony Brown is another one, Alana and Margaret Campbell, and all of the locals gang, because they have gotten me through this during the most difficult of times. Now, with that, that said, that was my sister trying to call.
Okay.
But I'll take that in a minute. With that said, there is a huge difference between Delta and Omicron.
And Alpha, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Omicron is a nasty cold. That if you were 90 years old and on the margin, then this could be a really serious problem. But everything can be a serious problem for you. But for the average person, your Dab001 says, getting to the point where most people I talk to have had COVID, myself included. I think we might be close to 2 or 3 million cases a day. That we have to stop focusing on cases because the cases aren't being converted to hospitalizations or death. They just are not. Now, there's going to be some increase just to the sheer numbers of people getting an upper respiratory infection. If you had any bronchitis type syndrome that affected the entire country, there would be some people hospitalized. That because some people have emphysema, some people have obesity, some people have other. I mean, there's going to be some hospitalizations around this. That's just the way it goes. But
no doubt.
But I'm thinking that the incidence of this thing is more around 2 or 3 million cases a day, in that most people are testing at home and the public health department isn't even finding out about it. You know what I mean? They're doing the home tests and, look, I'm positive, I'm going to stay home for a few days. And that's it. And so I don't know. I think this is even more common and more widespread than we know. So, and it might be good news. And Caleb, you said you were watching Dr. Campbell before we got on tonight. Did you see?
Oh, yes.
And he did a whole thing on Omicron being sort of very mild.
I haven't finished watching it, but I just had noticed that his fourth most popular video was just put up 12 days ago. He's exploding. He's such a great resource.
And it's about
Omicron.
And it's about the fact, about Omicron being not. I watched him the other day, and he'd been a little alarmist. I mean, he's been a very good source of information, but at times he's been a little bit like, I thought, wish you wouldn't say that. But he went the other way with Omicron. He was like, he literally at the end of, I think this is the one you're talking about. At the end of it, he goes, we should be out of this soon. It's like, it's almost over. And I thought, wow, that's quite a statement from him. So
I got a question for you. And again, this is strictly a prediction. Do not, please. Do not take this. This could be easily wrong on both Dr. Drew's part and my part.
Yeah.
But here's my question.
We're just talking.
Do you think the pandemic ends in 6 months?
I think it ends sooner than that, unless some weird variant comes along. I'm beginning to wonder if the endemic experience of this. I had a whole conversation with myself about this issue today, and because I've just had Omicron, I just had my second go round with this illness. I thought, how am I going to feel if every 6 to 12 months this damn thing mutates in such a way that it can infect you again? And I thought, that's no big deal. I mean, I get upper respiratory infections, once a year or so. I could live with that. But then I thought, well, this thing is kind of nasty. It could maybe mutate into something bad again, right? That's always a possibility. So I think it becomes endemic soon, like 3-4 months, but that it is this weird sort of Damocles that's going to be with us for a long time. And we're not really going to know if it does any serious mutating in a direction that's dangerous for a long time. And that bothered me. I didn't like that thought, I must tell you. But I think that's kind of the way it's going to go. Now, what needs to happen, though, is we need to learn how to coexist with this thing regardless. And we need to learn how to have a life and have a society and get back to things again. So, yeah, and by the way, Delta is still around. I've got some cases of Delta that are, if you're not vaccinated, Delta is nasty. And if you're triple vaccinated and you get Omicron, it's almost nothing. So there is, I would say one of the things that Omicron did is it made vaccine a little clearer from a risk reward standpoint for me. In that I'm seeing it so mild in people that have the booster particularly, And like one of my sons got the Omicron, and he'd only had the 2 vaccines, and he got pretty sick. He was definitely worse than everybody else who either had natural immunity or had the booster. And I thought, this is evidence that the booster is a good idea. Is it a good idea in a 9-year-old? I'm not sure. Pediatricians have to answer that question, but I'm pretty convinced in adults.
I'm curious. Here's another thing that I'm very curious on.
Yeah.
Or you should be curious. You should have. It was Douglas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You should have him check his vitamin D count.
Yeah, that's true.
Because my vitamin D count just before this was 65.
That's good.
And I think that does matter. I think it all matters. I think all of it matters in the grand scheme at the end of the day.
Excuse me.
But I think if you took out medications, pharmaceuticals, vaccines, I think the number one thing is good health.
Mm-hmm.
Good, clean health.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's always true. But oh my God, something's going in the environment here that's really getting me. I apologize. I'm gonna have to go to a commercial break just to cough this out. But what I would say is that's true always. However, we are biological, and people get sick, and we shouldn't be. We have the potential to make people ostracized or diminished by having chronic illness, and I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Your point is well taken. We should all pay attention to that. We should always pay attention to that. But illness happens. It happens in spite, and those people should not feel like, hey, what about me? This is part of being biological, part of being human, and we should have empathy for those folks.
And now, I think in the last 48 hours, I've come to that exact realization that you just said. That I'm not, we're not Supermen and women, and we have to, we get sick and we get cold.
Listen,
that is all part of being
it's
a human being.
so funny you bring this up, Joe. This is a really interesting conversation we're having. I was watching The Great. And if you see The Great, about Catherine the Great on Hulu, it's a comedy series loosely based on the history of Catherine the Great. And it's freaking hysterical. And at one point, Peter the Great's son's sister is talking to the doctor for the palace, and she goes, he goes, this whole doctoring thing, he goes, I'm really questioning whether I should do it, because it lets people believe that I can push death back, and people not understanding death and not having death everywhere, it's really bad for them. They need to appreciate that death is ever present. And I thought, oh my God, that's so interesting. We've gone the exact other way in this pandemic, where death is something it's not something that can be discussed in any empathic way.
And at the end of the day, we're all going to die. That's one guarantee.
Yes, Joe, that is one guarantee. And I'm not saying that young people should die, and I'm not saying we shouldn't fight hard. I'm just saying that we got to, I don't know. This whole thing just seemed very, very strange to me. It was so much of it, and it's still kind of strange. The hysterics and what do you think about Dr. Malone's construct of the mass delusional psychosis?
I thought it was very, very accurate.
He's not the right guy to be bringing that up, though. That's not his area, number one.
Well, but he is. It's interesting because the other thing you have to remember about Malone is he's also a DOD guy. That came from, I think that came from like the government side of him. He's a DOD contractor. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that.
Okay.
But I didn't think about it. But you're right.
I'm thinking that's the government side of him talking.
Yeah, could be.
Okay. And not just that, but I'm glad you bring up Malone. There is something I do want to challenge you on.
All right, go ahead.
The one thing that you did say on Monday that you disagreed with him on.
I didn't say I didn't disagree with him on much. I felt he went hyperbolic with some of the things he was saying. Like, okay, does that make sense? So
yes.
So go ahead.
No, I was talking about the fact that he was criticizing Pfizer.
Yeah. So let me bring that up, because I figured that's what you were going to say. is you got to be really careful. I was careful to frame what I said, which was I'm not defending drug companies. They have done horrible, duplicitous. We all know what they've done, but all those personnel no longer work for those companies. Those companies still do billions of dollars of research that I rely on to practice medicine, and they produce the medicine that I rely on to help patients, and they produce the vaccines that we're talking about here. He said they're the biggest criminal enterprise in the world. That's what I said. Now this hyperbole, it's like, yes, they have been horrible and duplicitous and broken laws, and absolutely people should be aware of what Big Pharma has done. They must repent. But the biggest criminal enterprise on earth, I don't know about that.
But you are aware of the 2009 lawsuit that Pfizer had to pay up, the largest fine in American history.
But here's what's interesting about that. Vioxx, that was around Vioxx, right?
That's correct.
When they pulled Vioxx from the market, it did untold harm to many of my patients who were relying on it for symptom control. We understood there was a risk of heart disease. That's on me as a physician. Now, they hid it. That's why they got into trouble. But the fact that it caused heart disease, that it caused rupture of, the coronary arteries, things, we knew that. I knew, I had that conscious decision-making when I put people on Vioxx. And when they took him off, some of the people never, ever got relief again the same. So when they would do these things, there was another medicine they did this with. It was a diabetic medicine. What the hell was it called? Oh, God, I forget what it was called. They did the same thing, and I never got this one patient under control again after she got off that one medicine. Why? Because 3 people died of sort of this acidotic syndrome. Yes, medicines are dangerous, especially if doctors aren't extremely careful with them. That's on us. That's on us. Now, the drug company shouldn't have lied about it. Don't get me wrong.
Of course not.
So I got tied into some crazy suit once. Maybe it's why I'm sensitive to this. Do you know this story?
I somewhat do. Go ahead.
Okay, so I did a campaign for, it was actually 3 companies ago. So the company doesn't even exist anymore. At the time, it was called Burroughs Wellcome or something. They hired me to go out and educate in these sort of town hall forums about the sexual side effect of SSRIs, which all those companies denied. All those companies, they denied that it happened, and I was seeing it destroy relationships. Now, I think we all now know that serotonin reuptake inhibitors screw with every phase of sexual arousal and libido. They're just a mess for sexuality, but they denied it at the time. Now, why did this company want me to go out there? Well, they made Wellbutrin, and Wellbutrin didn't have that side effect. So they were interested that, people be aware that they had their financial interest. I had my patient interest that I wanted people to be aware of the SSRI side effects. So there was a confluence of interest. So I thought, okay, I'll go do this. I did it for like 2 years. I toured the country. There was actually a number of us. There was a couple psychiatrists and a gynecologist. And I would sometimes, when I'd go to these cities and do these lectures, sometimes I'd be on a radio show or something, just sort of talking about it. And one time I was on a show, and the radio guy goes, oh, they cause sexual side effects. What do you do when your patients get sexual side effect? Now, I am at my liberty to do anything I want as a physician in response to that question. I just have to answer what it is I do when people have side effects from SSRIs. So what I answered was, well, I usually stop the SSRI. Sometimes I switch them to Wellbutrin, Cerazone, or Remeron, because those 3 don't have that side effect. And sometimes I'll add Wellbutrin to the SSRI to see if it's important for them to stay on that medication, to see if I can help that side effect kind of remit. Did I do something wrong there, Joe?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
I wasn't urging Wellbutrin. In fact, usually I would switch to Cerazone. That was my favorite at the time. And I probably said that. I'd switch to Cerazone. Because it didn't have that side effect. In fact, put my own wife on Cerazone when they felt I asked them to put her on that when she needed something, even though they'd misdiagnosed her, she actually didn't need it. But what I gaffed on is I never do this, and I can't believe I did it. I in my next breath, I have to say, oh, by the way, one of these drugs is made by a company that I accepted some funds from to go tour around the country and talk about this issue. I didn't do it, and that was wrong. That was the totality of my mistake. Because of that, I got named in a $4 billion lawsuit, and idiots who didn't even understand what had happened spilled all this ink in Wall Street Journal and all over but you'll find these articles, Joe, if you go look for them, about how what I'm a sellout and I'm a shill for the drug companies and all. It's just unbelievable. I had 0 shilling for that drug company, 0, and no interest in doing that. Trust me. But
did you have to speak in court?
No, I was named in this thing. It was just ridiculous. But the
well, that's good.
No, because it was nothing. It was actually
Right.
People didn't even understand what I had done. To this day, they don't understand what that was. So what I did was talked about an off-label use of a medicine, which I do in my practice, which I'm entitled to do, but forgot to say I'm accepting some funds for. I still can't believe I didn't say that. I'm imagining that I said it earlier in the interview or something, and that the attorneys just cut that out, like everything else in fake news. They take things out of context. But anyway, the shit show that developed afterwards had no relation to what I had actually done, which is, Joe, one of my big lessons through the last couple of years, particularly, is that whenever shit shows develop, and I don't think it's just unique to me. It's always what somebody said I did, never what I did or what I said. It's always what somebody said I said or did.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Right. There's actually a great clip that I saw. I told you I've been watching some of these clips today.
Yeah.
Between Olympic clips, because the Olympics is coming up, and then watching some Dr. Drew clips.
Okay.
and you actually do a segment that this was back in August of 2021.
Okay.
With the Daily Caller, and you talk about some of the things that you said that you clearly, that would take it completely out of context.
Yeah,
there was like 4 different things through the years.
Yeah,
I think the most interesting one I knew about 3 of the 4. The one I did not know was about the honey boo boo and the drink.
What was her
was it go-go juice or something?
You interviewed
her go-go juice, right?
Right, Taylor.
I was the first person to interview her.
You were the very first person to interview. Wow.
Yeah. But that I wasn't because I knew who she was or requested her. The producer said, "There's this honey boo boo. You're gonna have to interview her. You'll love talking to her." I thought, okay.
But that's what they do in daytime TV,
right?
I mean, you're just the host. You have oftentimes you have no choice.
I don't even know until we do the prep and I walk onto the set. That's how that works.
Right. And so that was the most intriguing one because I knew about the others. I mean you could just find on YouTube. But that was the most intriguing one. And did you, after that one time, because I'm assuming you did not interview them after that.
The Mama June and Honey Boo Boo?
Yeah.
I did. I interviewed them again on HLN years later. And she pretended she was sleeping and wouldn't talk to me.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And then that was before Mama June developed her drug problem. I feel terrible for her. Again, this is another case of how reality shows change people's lives. She's another one where after reality, things were different. I'm curious to hear how they, think about it these days. And having, it's, yeah.
And is that, has it exploded since the beginning of the reality TV world?
What's that? Has what exploded?
Just the mental health. I'm seeing mental health.
It's been bad forever. I mean,
or is it the fact that it's now more open, that you now see people on a television screen that have these problems, and we're talking about the last quarter century, of course.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but it certainly the curtain is back a little more. I think, unfortunately, the thing about reality shows is they select for people that aren't well. That's what they look for. And they cast people that are interesting. And guess what? Interesting people have issues. I mean, look, what is drama? What did Sophocles write about? What did Shakespeare write about? Sick people acting sick. That's it. That's what drama is. Mental illness acted out in an interpersonal context. That's it. Othello, not the healthiest guy, turns out. Diago, not a good guy. And it was wasn't it not Tolstoy? The Tolstoy that made it explicit when he said the healthy families are all the same, but the sick families are different each in their own way, or sick and each in their own way.
I'd have to look that up.
The opening of Anna Karenina. I'll look it up for you. I can't remember who. I'm sure.
But, yeah, I think that's no. You've answered my question, because I think just the fact that it's now more out in the open, that curtain clearly is lifted.
I think so.
Which actually,
but it's not. But it's not. But my criticism would be, but it's not examined. We're not showing it to people and explaining it to people and saying, hey, here's what you're looking at. This is what this is, and have some empathy for these people. Don't have disdain for them, and don't talk shit about them on the threads, because you're hurting them. Here it is. Here's Tolstoy's Anna Karenina opening sentence. Happy, and this is not obviously in Russian, but in English. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
Yep.
There it is. That's it. And that's drama, and that's what we like to watch. Why humans like to watch that, I don't quite know. Although I must say, I find it, I find people struggling interesting, and I have deep, deep compassion and immediately want to reach out. So maybe that's just part of that instinct of wanting we look towards that. Joe, I'm going to it's been an interesting conversation, my friend. I'm glad you're feeling well, or at least not terrible. And we'll welcome you back to humanity soon, which is nice.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, buddy. I'm going to take more calls, but first take a quick break. I'll be right back. I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Blue Mics. If you've heard my voice on this show anytime over the past year, including right now, you've been listening to Blue microphones. And let me tell you, after more than 30 years in broadcasting, I don't think I have ever sounded better. But you don't need to be a pro or have a fancy studio to benefit from a quality mic. You may not realize it, but if you've been working from home or using Zoom to chat with friends, you probably spend a lot of time in front of a microphone. So why not sound your best? Whether you're doing video conferencing, podcasting, recording music, or hosting a talk show, Blue has you covered. From the USB series that plugs right into your computer to XLR professional mics like the Mouse or the Blueberry we use in the studio right now. Bottom line, there's a Blue microphone to fit your budget and need. I can't say enough about Blue mics, and once you try one, you will never go back, trust me. To take your audio to the next level, go to drdrew.com/blue. That is drdrew.com/BLUE. Anyone who's watched me over the years knows that I'm obsessed with Hydrolite. In my opinion, the best oral rehydration product on the market. I literally use it every day. My family uses it. When I had COVID, I'm telling you, Hydrolite contributed to my recovery, kept me hydrated. Now, with things finally reopening back around the country, the potential exposure to the common cold is always around. And like always, Hydrolite has got your back. Hydrolite Plus Immunity, my new favorite, starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single serving easy pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydrolite Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy to pour sticks that rapidly dissolve in water, make a great tasting drink, has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. Uses all natural flavors, gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydrolite Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy. Or as always, you can find it by visiting hydrolite.com/drdrew. Again, that is HYDRALYTE.com/DRDREW. Be sure to use the code DRDrew25 for a special discount. Welcome back, everybody. We're taking your calls. Appreciate you being here. Next week, we have a pretty full slate of guests. Do you know, but I'm forgetting who's coming in. Do you have that information, Caleb?
I actually don't have it yet. I think she's getting all that stuff prepared.
Okay. The stuff was sort of coming past my desk today, and I was like, ooh, that's going to be good. It's going to be good, too. I think, is Bethany Shandar going to come? Bethany Mandel going to come in next week?
I think we're trying to get her booked.
Homeschooling expert.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. I was, for some reason, I saw Megyn Kelly tweeting about her, and I thought, God, that name is familiar. And I clicked on it, and she was blocked on my thread for some reason. And she is somebody I used to use on the radio all the time as a regular guest. And I think she's fascinating and intelligent, really interesting things to say. And I thought, and I DM'd her and I said, have we got a problem? I mean, it's interesting. A couple of interesting things about that. One, and she said no, she couldn't understand why she was blocked. And it must have been something Susan did in one of her blocking sprees. I don't block people, but she goes on sprees if people say anything even sideways about me. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Caleb?
It depends, because like some people actually take those as like a certificate of honor if they get blocked by someone who has a lot of followers. Yeah, they love it. They just line them all up.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, that's crazy. So, but it got me thinking about how my approach these days, and I think I've mentioned this before in these streams, which is when somebody is critical or says something wildly like not me, but they take aim at me with it. My immediate move now is to reach out to them, and I try to call them. I actually look up. When it's physicians, I actually look for they usually have some sort of phone number or office or something. I call them. I go, do we have a problem? What's going on here? This is not right. We shouldn't be like this. And I urge everyone to follow suit in this. And the DM works kind of well too. Just go, look, hey, if there's a problem, let's discuss it. Let's hash it out. It shouldn't be like that. And I don't know, Caleb, how do you feel about that?
Oh no, I 100% agree with that. That's almost all the time. That's what I do. If I have someone that they directly disagree with me, I want to understand, well, why do you think that? Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe I can learn from this. Like there's no reason for everyone to be so militant with each other.
That's right. I want my ideas to change. I want to be, expanded. If I'm wrong about something, I want to adjust my thinking. And I enjoy hearing other people's point of view. So yeah, that's the move, everybody. DM them, call them, reach out to them. Don't let this world of what do we call it, of aggression just exist without us reacting to it.
It's not bad to be wrong about something. Like it's bad to be wrong about it and not learn from it. I feel like too many people, they feel embarrassed by, they don't want to admit that they have something incorrect. If other people have other opinions, listen and understand what they're saying. I listen to people who think completely the opposite of me, because I think, what am I missing here that they're seeing? That's how I've learned almost everything is from listening to people. Like, in fact, I don't know if I've told you this before, but like back in the day, whenever I was writing my books, I found there were these people online who had created a full website dedicated literally just to hating me and how bad my writing was. And so I found those people, they're using fake names online, emailed them, and I had them edit my next book that was coming out specifically because I knew they weren't going to be nice to me. They were going to be honest and tell me what the truth was and all the bad parts about it. And they didn't believe it was real until I explained to them. I just sent it from my calebnation.com email and explained, look, no, I
love it. I love that. That is a
true honesty,
huevos, my friends. Well done. Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's how it should be. I mean, and the fact that we just let things, we just hunker down in camps is like, oof.
Yeah, we don't have to be enemies of each other. Like,
I totally agree. All right, I don't have the names of people I'm trying to throw up here, unfortunately. Let's try this. It's Chapman, I think. Chapman's. Let's see who that is. I can't. Give me a second here. I think what happens is people wait in the sort of waiting room with their hands up, and then they walk away from their phone. And then I call them up, and I can't call them up by a screen name because your guys' screen names are so goofy. I'm looking at, this is Chapman's 007, and there's so many different things here. The one I tried to get up there was MKGH12. All right.
I'm also always worried that these things might stand for other things that I don't know what that means. It could be an acronym for something horrible.
Yeah. Well, for me, that's a common occurrence. I'm so out of it. All right, let's bring Josh up. And Josh, if one of these other guys jump in front of you, I may interrupt you, but let's hear what you want to say. What's up?
Not much. Just wanted to talk about what you were talking about at the beginning of the show and about service. I really like that concept of service. I feel like even if you're not doing well, I feel like it's also part of the AA, giving back and helping people how you've been helped, even if you're just in recovery and you're still not really where you want to be. I feel like it's a good thing to teach kids that's out there, that if they're not doing well, you can kind of always serve, and it really makes you feel so much better.
It really does, and in ways that I think people think that in order to be of service, you have to be of service on some sort of large stage and a large scale, and with a big organization, and those are great, but it doesn't nourish you as much as doing small things particularly if you can do it for one person. Like if you can, the Helpen thing was you don't really get to see exactly what you're doing, but at least it's a small sort of gesture, and I think that's good, and it's sort of shared by the family. I like all that. But if you can actually help one person in some with some skill or something that you have that you can honor that person with, that makes you grow. That makes humans grow. It's just how we work.
Yeah, and I wanted to tie that to also thinking about other people, and what I mean by that is if you're constantly thinking negatively about someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's also not, you don't know how that's affecting you mentally, but it is. And, you talk about the cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're all the time thinking negatively about someone, you have no idea how bad your trip is going to be in the end, because you've spent so much time creating this negativity that really wasn't there to begin with.
Well, and I think the Stoics have a lot to say about that. I can't think of any quotes off the top of my head, but essentially, I think we all have the sensibility that negativity eats you up. Or there's a saying, in the recovery community that resentment is like drinking a poison and then expecting it to kill another person. But obviously, the poison's hurting you, and resentment is one of those negative feelings that eat people up. Envy is the other one.
Yeah, and in the same way, it's like we're talking about essentially our thoughts. If we're not doing well, if we're recovering, an addict,
mm-hmm.
And addicted, we can reach out. But at the same way, like we just said, the thoughts of other people are really important. But I would even take it a step further than that. And I would say that generally in our life, we might start out thinking really positively about creatively about our lives, but then something might turn where we start thinking negatively. And we may not even notice that we're doing it. In other words, the world is so bright, there's fresh air, I'm happy, I've got a woman I love or a man I love or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden it starts to turn. And if we're not careful, I think that's when thinking can really be damaging.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I could not, and I think exactly what you're talking about is why I started listening to Scott Adams, because he's a hypnotist and understands intentions and our cognitive distortions and how this works. And I'm still quite a dilettante in understanding this, but you are absolutely right. We not that I'm not Pollyannish about this, that we can think our way out of things or we can convince ourselves not to be depressed, whatever that is. But if we're not careful about our thinking, and if we don't sort of train it to express gratitude and to stay on a more positive track, it can easily drag us or build momentum in a terrible direction. I completely agree, Josh.
Yeah, and basically what I do is I always try to think of like, what's the highest ideal? I mean, you think of like, you've talked about like Jesus's life. It said, this is a great life,
But I've said it as an example of how a great life can still be very miserable. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is that a good life may not necessarily be fun and happy all the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that because it's like we have these ideals, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to go as far as Jesus, but mm-hmm. I feel like why not? And the thing is can I approach this type of state or being or existence? And I don't think we have to go to the negative. I think we can just keep it very positive.
Well, if you can do that, I hats off. I have full respect, man, as they say, full respect for even the desire to go there. I like that, and thanks for the comment, Josh. I've got a bunch of calls I got to get to here. let me get to Joey, just because he's got a fascinating hot sauce story here, it seems like. Joey, what's happening?
Hey, Drew. So great to hear from you.
You as well.
I really appreciate your voice in the midst of all that's going on in the world right now. It's very grounding for me. And although, I have not taken the vaccine, and listening to you just makes me feel like there's, that I've had COVID, and I just love your take. It just feels very grounding to me. Because there is a lot of like craziness going around. There's like so many rabbit holes you can fall down.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, right?
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
And this what sort of Josh was just talking about. We can drag ourselves negative so quickly in so many different ways now, and it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, it's possible to be positive. It's possible to find joy again, and we have to all begin striving that way. And you have natural immunity. I hope that holds. It should, certainly should against Omicron anyway. And if you get Omicron, oh well. If you've had natural immunity, you get Omicron, it's probably not that bad. Excuse me. And if you get, well, let me just talk about this for a second. Here with my nagging Omicron cough, is that Delta could kick your ass a little bit, possibly. You have to be very careful about that. So do still take care. But again, you're young. I imagine you're a young person.
I'm not that young. I'm 51 years old.
Okay. Tell us about the hot sauce.
Oh yeah. So Joey's hot sauce is an all organic blend between hot and sweet peppers with no additives, no preservatives, no binders, no sugar. It's predominantly like roasted pepper forward hot sauce. It's not really like watered down or vinegar forward. And I really made this for my wife, Lisa, because she just really wanted binders and sugars. Look at the hot sauce on the market. Got to put all this crap in it.
Good for you, man. I got to tell you, as someone that I try to avoid sugars and starches at all times. And I'm always looking at stuff going, why did they put sugar in this? Why did they put all this crap in here? Why the garlic? Why the things that you don't need it? But I'm fascinated. Is it selling okay? Are you there, Joey?
Oh, can you not hear me?
I got you now. Is it selling well? Is it you doing well?
We're a new brand, and we're.
Oh, you're cutting in and out.
Asking.
Joey, I've got to put you on hold because you're really cutting in and out a whole lot there. You're only catching little words here and there. But look for his hot sauce. Everybody go buy Joey's hot sauce. Chris, let's get what you want to say. What's up?
Hello. How you feeling, pal?
I feel great, but I've got this weird nagging cough, and when I go, certain rooms really trigger it. And evidently, this is the environment for me to have it today.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I feel fine. But did you tell the kids to do their homework?
Yeah, they're not listening.
Oh,
but what else is new?
Shocking.
Yeah, no. They were throwing pears at each other before. I think I put that to a stop.
Good. That's good. Well done.
We have plenty of other fresh produce for the next battalion, whatever's going to happen.
The mobilization. Good.
Yeah, I have a very funny story for you. My kids got for Christmas an anatomy torso, like a little one, not like a super large one that would make you like raise eyebrows and be like, that's very bizarre.
You mean like a where you pull the organs out and stuff? Yeah.
Yes. So my 6-year-old Teddy, I believe it was a gift for his 5th grade sister, but my little Teddy's in 1st grade, and he has just fallen in love with this thing. He's setting it on his bedside table before he goes to bed at night. And he's just saying to me, Ma, I need you to come in here. We got an emergency. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, this guy's lost a liver. He's lost a lung. He's lost his heart.
Oh my.
He's lost his large intestine. They're usually under the bed. So, but it's hilarious. He's like, whew, saved a life today.
Well, maybe you can get him interested in surgery.
I doubt it.
No?
But, I mean, I'm sure he'll always be interested, whether or not he'll have the academic credentials one day. hope springs eternal. But it just cracked me up.
When people find a direction and purpose, it's kind of amazing how much performance they can muster.
I'll be sure to remind him of that. But
yes.
I was like, I can't wait to tell Dr. Drew this story, because his kid, he fell asleep last night with half a liver under his pillow. And he's like, I just wanted to be sure when I woke up in the morning, I didn't forget to put it back in.
Oh my
I can't
God.
lose a patient.
That
I'm
is
like,
hysterical.
Oh, good God, help me.
That is hysterical. All right, Chris.
Better the torso than the dog.
Yes.
Thanks, Dr. Drew.
Okay, good to talk to you. I want to get Leopold up here too. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Hold on. Leopold. Yeah, what's going on, man?
Hey, Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, so lots of interesting topics. It was wonderful to hear Joe. I spoke to him earlier today, and he sounds good. And hopefully he's going to pull through this problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you doing with all your long hauler stuff?
Long hauler stuff is still, some days kicks my ass. I still have the fatigue, still have the joint pain, brain fog is still there.
Have you tried any more of the Dr. Patterson protocols?
Well, that's the thing, Dr. Drew. It's the question of, because I have Kaiser, and as and as your wife knows, Kaiser is a health maintenance organization. They're not cutting edge by any. And the problem is, and this is going to kind of dovetail into my question, is, they follow strict CDC, guidelines. They follow, strictly what is the official, medical dogma of the time.
Yep.
And, you obviously you have folks on who are at cutting edge, who are in the trenches, who see the trends. And this leads to the question of who to trust, and where do you find that you get unbiased, unfiltered, true medical data and research? I'm asking you that because, especially since, and Joe brought it up, with the interview that Joe Rogan did with, the doctors.
Malone.
Malone, yeah. He really brought into, questioning, your North Star, Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
And he brought up drug companies and how there's manipulation of data. There's a link actually in that Rogan interview with the Canadian Health Alliance that talked about the data manipulation. And Dr. Drew, the first little book that I read in college that was necessary for the statistics class was, and it's a thin little book, and I'm sure you read it too, How to Lie with Statistics, right? I mean, that was required reading.
Yep.
And, so the question is, who do you trust? Where do you go to for unbiased, real medical information?
So I'm trying to remember the guy's names. I just had him on the show the other day. He does the podcast called Plenary Sessions. Caleb's going to come up with me for a section in a second. But here's the way to do it. You and unfortunately for the average person, it's almost impossible to do this. I mean, I make a point of it as Prasad, Vinay Prasad. Vinay Prasad, before COVID, I was listening to him because I like listening to people that can penetrate literature, right? They're penetrative readers. There's people that I read stuff, I understand it, I have trouble penetrating it. They can penetrate it and see the inner workings of it and the assumptions and where the weakness and strengths are. Now, what I do to buttress my own weaknesses is I read very broadly on all topics, or any topics that are pertinent to the moment anyway. So I familiarize myself with the landscape. So the first rule is not to become swept into an extreme opinion, because there are lots of them. There are always extreme opinions. To take them in, read them, and think, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if this ends up being the truth? But consider it as it's still an outlying opinion in a body of literature. So familiarizing oneself with the body of literature, and then having a few go-tos that you can rely on. For me, it's like Vinay Prasad. He's just and he and Monica Gandhi right now have been just on fire on Twitter. And I think if you want, just as a layperson, two people to look at, and they're both excellent. They both know what they're talking about, and they're both reasonable. Vinay recently has been going a little wild on the masking kids issue. He just is. I think that's become his thing now. All of a sudden, he's going quite as Edward Grimley. What was the character that from Saturday Night Live? Ed Grimley. As Ed Grimley used to say, he's going a bit mental on this, and as a result, I worry that he may become excessive on that. But his point is well taken, which is why do we have 3-year-olds with masks? Nowhere else, no other country on earth has that, and God knows what damage we're doing with that. But anyway, those are two good resources you can go to, and the stuff they write about is not very sensational. It's just very matter of fact and very reasonable, and reasonable is usually closer to the truth. It really is.
Now, but do you also find that there are certain forces, especially in our country, i.e. the pursuit of the good old dollar, that can absolutely blind and taint and perhaps color, experts' opinion, and we've seen this, of course, time and time again.
Something adulterated Dr. Fauci for a couple of years here, and it seemed political. It seemed like some political force was at work there, and he was not himself. I've just noticed in the last 5 days, it's like, oh, there he is. I recognize that guy now. The way he talks, the things he's saying, all seem very sensible to me all of a sudden. And I thought, wow, what happened to him for those 2 years? But yeah, people are being adulterated in all kinds of ways.
Right. Sure. And so, of course, when, and this is what, it concerns me, and I'm sure concerns you as a physician, that the untold harm to really the reputation of not only science, but to medicine.
Well, I mean, this is, my profession is in some sort of vortex right now. It really is hard for me to watch. I got to tell you.
Well, the fact that doctors are in fear of their license, are in fear of being deplatformed.
I had a patient beg me for ivermectin, and I didn't prescribe it for 2 reasons. 1, I really don't see any evidence that it's very useful. And 2, I was afraid.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
Yeah. And that's, I'm not alone. And I'm not alone with that. But thankfully, I also didn't think it would work, because if I really thought it would work, I would have done it anyway. But it was a scary thing.
And, and to go to an earlier point, the fact that our society has become so fragmented and so tribalized, and I heard, I think it was your podcast yesterday or day before, where you were just summarily attacked by your first caller.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. And, Brenda. Okay, Brenda. Really, just labeled you immediately.
Yeah.
And assumed, basically assumed that because you might have said one thing or were misquoted or whatever it might have been, that automatically you're a part of this, right wing, beer guzzling, Confederate flag waving tribe. And that can be further from the truth. But
I thought about that over the. Was there a weekend here? Yeah, like maybe on Monday and Tuesday. I was thinking. I guess this happened on Monday, so I was thinking about it yesterday. I thought to myself, people don't understand. I am purple. I am so purple. It's ridiculous. I'm like, but there is a piece here, though. There is a piece. I thought to myself, oh, there is a weakness here, and that is when I podcast with Corolla, I'm often obliged to say, yes, Adam. Yes, Adam. Not only that, Adam. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it may look like I'm co-signing stuff that I'm not really all that comfortable with. And because he insists on sort of an improvisational, like literally an improvisational sort of a interaction, I will go with him on things that I might not be as myself, as a separate person, might not be as in as I would seem if you were listening to us in our dialogue. And I thought, okay, that would be a valid criticism, by the way. Somebody did actually say something like that on the thread. And I thought, oh yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true.
Well, Dr. Drew, I've been listening to you ever since I was in law school back in 2004, and coming home late at night because I did the night school thing, and I've seen just a total maturation, so to speak, in the way you deal with things. But boy, to be thrown in the fray with your first caller, I think it was Monday.
Yeah, it was Monday.
It was crazy, just crazy. And
it's the craziness that's out there, man. And I thought also about it. I thought she also admitted that if I had a dementia patient running around talking to himself, I'd have to go help them. But if I have a schizophrenic patient running through traffic, having to help, talking to himself, I'm not allowed to do anything. That's the insanity of the laws that are going on right now. And speaking of that, by the way, they're undermining what poor. My name finding today is really off. The mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, is trying to do some really good work on behalf of the people, the patients that are dying in the street, and she's being undermined again. It's really, any of you in San Francisco, please, by all means, do something about that. It's terrible. Sorry about that.
When you were being asked to serve on that committee, you were immediately attacked by the LA Times and everyone else.
Oh yeah, and the thing that I found most disturbing, she called me anti-immigrant. I said, I'm an immigrant. My family fled the Ukrainian genocide. What are you freaking talking about? I was like, how dare you? What's wrong with you? You call yourself a journalist? Oh my God.
Well,
disgusting.
And that's the problem. In other words, you are being, thrust into a category that even if you have the slightest intersection, or even if there's a hint of an intersection, that's why, there's this fear. There's this fear that, okay, well, if you prescribe ivermectin, you must be a wacko physician.
Right.
If you even talk about any of the protocols that are not mainstream, hence, my own situation with Kaiser, same thing.
I remember. Talking to you as you walked into the facility, and I'll tell you what, the fact that Paxlovid has taken so long to roll out, that is killing people a lot, and I don't know what is their problem. They've got to get that out like right away. I got a mass mailing from CVS saying, well, we've been selected. We don't know which stores are going to get it yet. Please don't come running to us. We're going to have to figure out who we're going to give it to. I thought, oh shit. This is terrible. This is a pill that should be produced on a mass scale. It's going to save lives. Do it, for God's sakes.
And so, circling back to the original issue, which is, who to trust, and base the fact that there are these, two camps. And if you're not in one camp, then that means you're in the other, which is utter bullshit.
And, utter bullshit.
So,
Well, Leopold, thank you for dropping in. I got to take one more call. See you, my friend.
All right, you too.
All right, buddy. This is Diane, I believe.
I do think it's bizarre when people say that you're an anti-vaxxer, because nothing could be
Isn't that weird?
The truth. It's just it's like what you said, where it's never about what you said. It's about what people say that you said, but they can never find any source for that because it doesn't exist.
Right, exactly. Or it's some edited or outtaken or something about it. And or I misspoke, frankly. I can misspeak. You heard me. I opened the show today misspeaking. Diane, your hand is up. There you are. Hi, Diane.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Good. What's going on?
Well, let's see. My question is going to revolve around long haulers a little bit. I'm a March 2020 COVID person who became a long hauler. And I think I have a little bit of PTSD concerning COVID.
Yeah.
And with Omicron here, I think my nerves are up a little bit. I guess my question is, seeing patients getting worse, or their symptoms getting better or worse from having gotten Omicron?
I have not seen a long haul. Well, Omicron is ubiquitous, right? So we'll see this. I just haven't seen it yet. It's a great question. There was early on sort of rumors that the vaccine would help long hauler. I don't know that was ever shown to be true. So the fact that Omicron helps, I'd be surprised if it does. I'd be surprised. But it is something to look out for. I'm glad you raised the issue. I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, I didn't know if it also could make things worse for us.
I've had a very strange experience with Omicron, and I had it like 3 weeks ago, essentially. I didn't think I had anything. I thought I had a cold. Then my whole family came down with it, and I thought, I started testing. I tested my son too, who was the other one that had natural immunity. He and I tested negative. We never tested positive, but it's clear that's what we had. It's just crystal clear. Our whole household. And by the way, he and I moved freely through the household while everyone else was sick with Omicron for 2 weeks, and we did not come down with another illness. But I'm having a little more brain fog from it. And so that's very disturbing to me. As I said, I opened the show with a gaffe, and I'm having trouble concentrating a little bit. I have a little more fatigue and stuff. So, and I found myself fantasizing about going back on fluvoxamine. So it's not making things better.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess that's my fear. I'm not out of the woods, and so just I'm kind of wanting to live in a bubble.
But it's mild. It's mild. I will tell you that. It's nothing like the Delta or the Alpha. Nothing. It really isn't. It's just very, very different.
Do you think, I'm vaccinated. I will tell you that I got the vaccine and it made me worse. It did not make me better.
That happens.
But once I committed, I went ahead and did both shots. I have not gotten the booster. I'm scared of the booster
But you have natural immunity. Here's the thing about the booster for people that are recovered from COVID. There's zero science. There's zero science, even though they're starting to recommend it for people with natural immunity, because the presumption is natural immunity doesn't last. There's actually zero science at this point. Now, hopefully there will be some science. I saw Vinay Prasad going crazy about this today too. He was saying, why do you recommend this? There's no science to recommend it yet. So keep an eye on that. My bet is you're going to be fine without it. That's my bet.
Yeah, I've read articles that talk about, if you've had COVID and you've had full vaccination, it's almost like you've had 3 exposures.
Yeah.
So you don't really need that booster because that's your 3rd exposure.
Especially with your long hauler and it having gotten worse from it, I would be hard pressed to have you do that. But talk to everybody. Make your decisions with your doctor. Thanks, Diane. I got to wrap this thing up here. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming around. I'm sorry about my brain farts and about my coughing. We do have a bobblehead coming online here that. Here it is, everybody. Susan is very excited about this. She and Alana have been working on this very hard. You have a full screen for that bobblehead, Caleb? I know you had prepared one. I thought it was there it is. That's hysterical. So there you go, everybody. DrDrew.com/shop if you want to get this bobblehead and make Ilana and my wife very happy. They think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And I think I'm going to bring it over to After Dark. I'm going to Austin tomorrow to visit my friends in Austin, Annie, and we have some rather extraordinary, we planned some extraordinary things. I was emailing Nadav today to see if he was going to follow through on them. So if we do what has been thought of or proposed, there are some very interesting shows coming for you guys at After Dark. You can check it out at DrDrew.com, DrDrew.tv, of course. And do follow me over on the social media platforms. The Instagram is Dr. Drupinski. The TikTok is Dr. Drew, Twitter, Dr. Drew. And I will try to do some lives and stuff over there, as well as, of course, our friends at Locals. We appreciate everyone that shows up there. Caleb, thank you for producing today's show. Thank you for Craig Saunders for stopping by, not Craig Helpen, as I said at the opening of the show. Caleb, any comments? I'm going to let you help me wrap this up. Anything from your camp?
No, just go look at the bobbleheads, everyone. It's drdrew.com/shop. So you got to see these and look at all the pictures. These are hilarious. Mine's on the way, so I'm excited.
I think we should do a little sort of, some sort of, not contest, but some sort of, Instagram type thing where, where's the bobblehead now? Where
take it with you on all your travels.
What kind of weird environment do you have?
Right.
Like, what's the kids carry around some little doll or something. It's that kind of thing. We'll check it out. We'll figure something out with it. Thank you all for being here. Next week, we have some interesting guests. We'll give you those details. Do we post that somewhere, Caleb? What's coming
yes,
up?
all of them usually get posted on drdrew.com, and they also get lined up on your YouTube channel where they can go and click a button and get reminders and alerts whenever those episodes are coming up.
Mock Disaster, thank you. The roaming gnome. That's right. And then the gnome, never mind the bobblehead. We'll have Dr. Drew. Never mind the gnome. We'll have the bobblehead. And the gnome thing was before, it came along after my kids graduated from all that stuff. So I didn't get exposed to that experience. Those of you on Clubhouse, thank you all for being there. We're going to wrap this thing up in that room. We'll see you again when we come back next week. And in the meantime, I will be making a visit to Austin, and we will see you. Do we start again on Monday or Tuesday, Caleb?
I'm not actually sure yet what's been scheduled, but probably
I see,
whichever day you get back.
I
in
see
town.
Wednesday and Thursday, but I thought we had something coming on Tuesday as well. So hopefully we'll be here on Tuesday. But I think also there might be a Monday show. So look for Monday. I have a feeling because Michelle, who does such a great job booking us, said something about Monday as well. So let's keep an eye on the schedule. Oh wait, Susan is texting me. Let's see if it comes up on what she's texting to me. Nope. She is just she's there with Craig's publicist and asking how was Craig. So we'll tell her. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on Monday, hopefully. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help. Remember that guy that was upset that people were calling him daddy on the stream?
Yeah.
I think I'm becoming that guy for the question about testicles and semen. The more I protest, the more people send me questions about it. Dr. Drew, when a man ejaculates, does the semen draw from both testicles or does it alternate each time? Don't call me daddy. Don't call me daddy. Please, you guys, don't call me daddy. Don't call me daddy.